It's like really shiny.
It's like peanut color.
Yeah.
His is black though.
Look down.
Oh, copper maybe.
This
No.
was a copper mine.
Getting readings of 10 in here in copper, Reid.
Hey, you took my rock. Let's go keep that.
There's a bunch right here though. You can see the shiny. Huh.
Sick, it's her.
Holy shit, dude. Like I said in my video, there's all the time cattle die up here. Some of them are mutilations from like mountain lions, maybe even alien abduction possibly. Well, yeah, something probably scavenged it, scattered the bones, but whatever. Look at how the ribs are broke. Something was gnawing. You can tell something was gnawing on that.
Oh, there's no teeth.
You'd be able to teeth marks.
Yeah, I don't see any teeth.
Teeth marks, mountain lion. It's about the coyotes, mountain lion. Well, coyotes are scavengers, but they'll take down some cattle. Life is harsh up here in this area. This is a harsh region to live. That's why these ghost towns didn't survive very long. My stupid EMF detector's on a 10, man. I'm thinking it's broke.
Yeah, maybe.
Time to order another one. It won't go off a 10. I'll put another battery in, just see if the battery's low and causing it to do that. Look at this. Look.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It looks like it's almost like grass.
Interesting. Dead ass cattle. Man, something tore this thing up. Because look, this is...
Dude, it's still got a hoof. Oh my god.
There's another hoof on that one.
Oh my god. Look, look at that little lizard.
Oh, dude, you gonna eat that?
Oh my god, that is freaky.
Touching my food.
Dude, will you just stop? I'm an investigator.
Since you keep on complaining, then he is gonna touch your food.
I'm an investigator. I have to touch things that you may not agree with at times. Well, this is definitely the town site. It's scattered.
Look at all the pipes.
The pipe?
There's like
It's not from the town. They didn't have PVC piping.
I'm like, you piece of poo.
That's ore, dude.
Yeah, I know.
That looks like coal. Look at that.
Right?
It's, look though, it's melted. There's like,
Look at the back.
what do you think, maybe a meteor hit here and just made all the rocks like this color singed and melted?
Yeah.
It's sand and rock and it all looks melted.
maybe UFO landed, killed the cow.
It's like glass.
That's right, the UFO landed here, caused intense heat, abducted the cow, left the cow. The cow was scavenged by a bunch of scavengers like coyotes.
And then the radiation
Yeah,
from the heat
and
from
now
the
we got
UFO
radiation poisoning because we're walking through the radiation field where the UFO landed right here.
That's why your thing's not working.
My EMF?
Yeah.
Maybe, right? You know, my EMF detector, or my recorder. I don't know, man, it's not working. But that's all right. Shit happens.
I mean, it was suddenly hot here because it is melted.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, just right here. I mean, how does it just stop right there? You know what I'm saying?
Now.
We have carcass of a cattle. I'm thinking it's a cattle. You know, there are horse. We do find horse bones out here, but this looks more like a cattle or a steer. You can tell by the hips and the rib cage and all. But, you know, cattle die all the time out here. It's a free range. And they get attacked by mountain lions, coyotes. There are small cases of UFO and alien mutilations where they come down. And I mean, it's common in Nevada and New Mexico where there's mutilations similar to this. This is not a mutilation. You can see there's been some gnawing on the bones. I don't think this is paranormal unless aliens came down, abducted this cattle, dropped it from the sky, which is, they found that a lot of cattle have been dropped thousands of feet up, and then something came in and ate the carcass. I don't know. This ghost town's not very big, but if you look up here, this is the Carson Sink. It's just a big expanse. It used to be a seabed. There used to be these 50-foot long, the size of school buses, Ichthyosaurus or whatever they call them, Ichthyosaurs. There, you know, it depends how you want to pronounce it. Swimming, and the water would touch the tops of the peaks, and it would look like, it basically looked like an island. But it is beautiful country. We have our first foundation here. We got the tripod set up, and we have another foundation across. Once I get our pictures taken, then I'm going to go ahead and do a movie on the history here before we decide to go looking up in the canyon for bighorn sheep. Anyhow, this area is very hot. Some of this sand has been melted. Like if you look here, this is flat and it's shattered, and yet it's all melted. I don't know what this could be, but this is a huge area of melted sand and glass. And it has a rainbow to goldish look in the sun, depending on how the sun, if you angle the sun, it looks like silver or gold. But then if you pick up the piece and look, it has kind of a rainbow hue in it. It's all melted. There was some heat here, unless this is the smelter site. They had a smelter here. This might be the smelter ruins, and maybe what they melted in the smelter, they just threw out here in front. It's the only other theory I have, only other plausible theory. Now, Coppereid was discovered in 1868 at the mouth of this very canyon, which is about 33 miles northeast of Stillwater, 35 miles southeast of Lovelock. 35 miles to the north is the Cave of the Red-Haired Giants. There's also many ghost towns, Tammy and I. Bones? Teeth. Now keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, no work was done in the area the first year this place was claimed. Now I'm going to tell you why, because the Indians in this area were basically attacking anyone who came here, because the white man encroached on their Carson Sink where there's water, and they were building Pony Express stations, overland station, routes through here, wagon routes. So in 1868, no work was done. In 1869, Major B.B. and Frederick North organized the mining district, but they didn't do no work till the 1870s. John C. Fall of Unionville came here to do the work. This town had a store, saloon, 40 people, just the basic sites, probably a blacksmith, hotel, restaurant. These smaller ghost towns were not as extensive. Bring the tripod, son. Okay, bring the tripod, we're gonna need it. And the canyon, you can see up here, I'll zoom in, but the canyon is very lush. There are trees, there is a creek, you can see bighorn sheep and wild horses. We're gonna go to the canyon, even if I gotta park and we hike it in for about an hour. I wanna get some hiking in today. And that's a given. When we're here to explore. We wanna find new sights, new discoveries, and definitely see nature, definitely. It was called Coppereid because of its copper. They also had a smelter and a post office. I believe that this might be the smelter ruins, and then this up here might be the old post office. I'm not sure what's what. Everybody has different description in their site. But the town flourished till about 1907. And the Nevada United Mining Company that was located here was under supervision of John T. Reid, who began to expand the mining operations here. And they had 33 claims in the area. Like I said, it's just a mining camp. It's really not a town, but it did have a post office, boarding house, commissary, saloon. Oh, and by the way, Mr. Reid, who lived here, had the right-of-way of a railroad. The railroad was supposed to be a 40-mile spur from Hazen. And in 1933, the legislature had granted Mr. Reid. However, by 1912, the area had lost its post office. Most of the people moved out. Some of you might wonder who Reid was. But he was born in Unionville in 1871. Unionville had a bunch of Southern sympathizers during the Civil War, when a lot of miners were in favor of the Union, not the South. So they kind of ran the Southern sympathizers out. They also ran the Chinese out. Mark Twain lived there for about a year, trying his hand in prospecting. Yeah, Unionville was a really great place, except people weren't too friendly. Almost was ran off the road, almost had a woman. It's a semi-ghost town. A woman living there tried to have her dogs after me. People look out their windows. It's not very friendly. I think they found a chopped up little girl or two in one of the abandoned vehicles. Reid also had ties and lovelock. And I guess he wrote an article in the State Journal newspaper. And I think they tried their hand in silver, but copper was the cream of the crop here. It really was. Oh, there's more foundations and bed springs over here. There's about 5 or 6. It's not a huge ghost town, but it's still pretty. It's a pretty day to be out here. In 1896, he surveyed the Tintic mining district in Utah for the Nevada United Mining Company. And when he succeeded at the mining in Utah, he had received a lifetime annuity from Oliver G. Jennings, nephew of John D. Rockefeller. So he had the funding to put claim on it. And it says early in 1900s, he found the remains of a body with a rifle, shoes, pipe, clothing. In the 1941, the Historical Society in Nevada determined they were from the Paiute Indians and were predating before, I guess, the 1840s. The Paiute Indians were very prominent in this area. And yeah, there was a Paiute Indian war and 3 toes. Oh, a deer double. That looks like bighorn sheep. Like it double stepped on its... See, because there's 2 and then there's 3, like it stepped over. This might be the post office, by the way. And in 1907, the Nevada Mining Company and its founder, Reid, the owner and having great stakes. He actually ran, he actually owned the Shady Run copper mine. Now, we were up in that canyon. It's very rugged. You could see that the walls were mined. There was rock, like strip mined on the, there was crevices and areas rocks were missing. I don't think they actually had a mine. They just kind of strip mined the copper. Reid, you had to live here, you had to get along with the Indians, and Reid did get along with the local Paiutes. It says Reverend Mark White and others, he wrote to Senator Nixon. Reid, with Reverend Mark White and others, wrote to Senator Nixon requesting a permanent home for the Indians of Lovelock in the area. And it said the Indians should have no fear of moving again like they had to many times. Because, yeah, they were basically removed from this area so that people could build boom towns and mines and mills. And it says Mr. Reid had passed away in 41, and he's well known in the Lovelock area, probably Unionville too. They have a nice cemetery. Unionville, it's a very dismal, in a dark canyon, it's a very dismal town. It gets very dark. It gets dark early. The winters are harsh, but the silver there, it was short-lived, and Mark Twain found it out for himself. And by the way, Reid was also the postmaster for Coppereid. So it's pretty cool. But I'll talk more about the town at other foundations. That's just to give you an idea. He didn't find the town, but he came in here and reinvented it. Beforehand, the attacks from the Indians and the fact of there wasn't many claims, the town kind of dwindled and nearly died. And he came in here and he expanded the town in the early 1900s. But it did not last long. But he still had 33 claims. There was a smelter, and there was a couple businesses, like I was telling you guys earlier, the commissary, the boarding house, hotel, restaurant, saloon. Just the common things in a mining camp you'd have. So we're about to hike up in the canyon. You can see. That's where we're going to be hiking up into. It goes up, cuts to the left, cuts to the right. It'll be steep, but there's lower Coppereid and upper Coppereid. They call it Coppereid because it was named after Reid. So he named it after him. But the original name is White Cloud City. And of course, you know, the town didn't begin right away. Or the camp, I should say, due to the Indians. However, it lasted until 1907. So mid-1800s and 1907. The smelter was built in 1893. I don't know if those walls are the smelter. Like I said, every website says something different. People don't always get their history right. It's pretty nice. But about 40 people lived up here. And although that's not a lot, careful. It may not be a lot, but it may not be a lot. However, there are signs that people have lived here. Cans, glass, things of that sort. And there's more than 40 people. 40 men would live here for a year, and another 40 miners would come in. It's based on how much work was available. And there is flash flooding within the canyon. Of course, it's not raining or no threat today, but you could see, I mean, a river will flow down here. See how much erosion is down in this wash? The water there'd be a river that would go right past this foundation. So it definitely was, you know, it was like most towns, it had its fair share of accidents and tragedies. You know, so this copper mine was dangerous, men died. Other times, flash flooding would kill people. Just a fact of life. Indians also, Indian raids. Wasn't the safest ghost town to live in. And of course, this overlooks the Carson Sink. Some beautiful country back here. And just so everybody knows, the post office was operable from 1907 to about 1914. Also, there was some iron mining that took place here. Of course, it no longer takes place. Oh man, that's rough. Wow. This may have been the post office, according to some people. May have also lived here while it was a post office. We have a few more foundations up ahead. Copper, gold, and silver were mainly mined up here. Major BB, his name's Major B, like the letter B, and then B, spelled like a honeybee, B-E-E. And Frederick Smith were the ones who discovered the copper in 1868, but it wasn't organized until 1869, like I said, because of the natives. John Fall did some of the first work from Unionville in 1870. A lot of people came from other ghost towns in the area. However, the United Mining Company was built by John Reid, who did extensive prospecting in the early 1900s. And of course, Coppereid is just another name for the town. And the railroad is supposed to go up to Shady Run, which is about 10 miles to the south of here. We've already been down the road. I did some filming at it. You guys will probably, I didn't know what it was called at the time, but you know, well, you could definitely see some crevices and that deep canyon we were in where all the rocks were. I was looking for the town. That's a mining site actually, and you could see some cans and glass around. You could tell, but the railroad never came to be. The line was supposed to run from there in 40 miles. Of course, we have another foundation here. This might be the post office as well. I don't know what all these buildings are, but I know one thing. It is good to look around. This is not the most extensive ghost town. It's not the biggest ghost town, but it is good enough to explore and preserve. A lot of people steal the stones from these towns and build walls, and some of these other little local towns that are offbeat, you'll get people who have no respect for history. You know, they live in a semi-ghost town themselves, but they'll come to other ghost towns just to steal the bricks and stones for their cobblestone walls and walkways. And it's like, man, don't tear it up. This is all that remains of the town, and you can see most of the stonework. The one wall's collapsed, but the back wall and the front wall, somebody has been here basically stealing, taking what they're not supposed to take. Here we have a basement. Now there was walls around here, you can tell, because if you look right here where I'm zooming in, that's all that's left of the wall. So this is just a basement, or a root cellar. We'll call it a root cellar. It's where they'd store their meats and their vegetables so they wouldn't go rotten in the summer, because it was much cooler underground. Or you could build a dugout in the side of the hill and store your frozen goods. This was an old-fashioned refrigerator, and then you built the home with wood floors on top. You just had a little cubby hole, you crawl down, put your food. You see a lot of these in miner cabins in the Wild West. We have to be careful. There are mountain lion tracks. We're going to be going up in the mountains in the Stillwater Range. I've seen out here a moving scarecrow. I've seen weird tracks, gotten UFOs, EVP. So this area is full of paranormal. We just got to search for it. But this is a foundation that we're looking at, and there used to be a home here, or a cabin, much like you see ahead with the stone walls, except the stone walls are gone. That's because someone came in here and took most of the rocks and are using them in their gardens around here, and I don't agree with it. I think the history should be left alone. Visit it, photograph it, come here and investigate it if you want, but don't be hauling off the ghost town to for your own home decoration or better homes and gardens, because then when I come and there's nothing here, it's kind of sad and it's kind of disappointing. Well, I guess we should go up in the White Cloud Canyon and see the upper portion of town. It's Lord Rick, founder of the Paranormal Ghost Society, checking out the strange and historical. Let's see what we can find today. Some beautiful country. I love this area. And one last look. This is the Carson Sink. Nothing grows here. It's just a giant, vast desert of sand, salt flats. There might be a few ponds out there, or natural springs that the natives once harnessed or utilized, but that's it. There's really no water. In the spring, all these trees have leaves. The canyon's very lush and green, but this time of year, it's going to be very brown. That doesn't mean we won't see some wild horses, some cattle, some bighorn sheep, maybe some eagle, but I'm looking forward to getting up in those mountains. And if you look, one last thing, those are woods. That's a Toyabe National Forest in that canyon. So we got a lot to look forward to. It's a very lush, very beautiful canyon. I heard it's full of nature, and I cannot wait to just pack the backpacks, put my drinks and food in there, and just go, just explore, just be a part of the Nevada frontier. That's what it's really about. And after we're done here, we'll stop at Mountain Wells, La Plata. There's only about 4 or 5 foundations and an old courthouse ruins and the mill ruins. We'll check that out, and we'll go to the walk in Fallon and have some Thai food after our hard days of work, and maybe I'll get some sake to go with dinner. Yeah, I think I'll have some sake. Tammy was saying that all the cow prints she found, or the hooves, were 333. And she said she thinks it's a mutation. I have heard of animals being born with extra appendages, like cats can have 5 toes, cows can have a 3rd hoof, or at least a hoof that develops into... This rock's purple. Did you see this? It's possible. It's possible that it has a 3rd hoof, or maybe the hoof's cut.
It's like I see 3 hooves that are 2 and 1 that's 3.
It's weird. I've seen a few myself like that. So we're going to head back to the Jeep. I'm going to check out the smelter ruins up here. It was built in the 1890s. Actually, 1880s, pardon me, like 1887 era, I believe is when they started building it. There's a bunch of melted glass-like mineral. I don't know if we're dealing with some kind of mineral, or if a meteor struck this ground here and it caused it to kind of melt. I've seen that in the woods. This is a wash right here, man. See how lush it is? And the wash leads right up into the canyon, which means the creek's not flowing. It doesn't appear that the snow has struck this area much, which means that it's going to be very dry here in the spring. And that's why these people couldn't survive in this town. It was hard because not only was it remote and the railroad didn't come back here like they wanted, it just never came to be. People have come back here, try to revitalize the claims. There is copper, there is silver and gold in these mountains, and iron mining took place in the 1900s, but it wasn't a major mining boom like Virginia City, or, you know, some of these other towns like Bodie, or, you know, we just went to Tonopah, very rich town. Nothing like that. 40 people, and it died, along with the copper and these hills. Bed springs. From the miners, look at them all. There were some over by the abandoned foundations, but I didn't get a picture or video. But this is way better. I mean, seeing multiple different types of bed springs, cots. It's just like a graveyard of bed springs. Look at this. It's about the only remnants of the town. I think I see a chair too. Yep. No cloth, just rust. Pretty sure people burn these for firewood or kindle. Oh yeah. As you can see, all the bed springs are piled up over here. There's not much remaining. A guy told me out here, he's like, oh, there's nothing left. The canyon's pretty. And I'm like, nothing left. There's at least 5 foundations and some bed springs and some mining remnants. It's not that bad. There's more left than what the guy said. Some of these locals don't want people back here, even though it's free to hike. It's a public area to hike. There's a lot of people who oppose that because they were hunting, and they might just want the area for themselves. I'm not going to interrupt their hunt. I'm 15 miles down the road from them. But the people told me there's nothing here. Not true. It's not a huge ghost town, but there is some foundations and walls. And that's a sign, a tall tale sign, that somebody's been here. And that this was, at one time, a very, not a huge ghost town, but a decent ghost town based on how high some of the walls are. This is probably the smelter ruins, and I'll show you guys what they look like from up here. You have 2 walls and multiple rooms, which are now collapsed. Here's a room. This pile of stones was probably some kind of building or something, or another room. Now it's in shambles. We have another room right here. Beautiful day. It's almost 70 degrees. We're in the middle of February. So I was like, I gotta go adventure, I gotta go ghost towning. And here I am in an area we've worked a few times. And to be able to do this place after a couple years, this is an honor. See, 1, 2, 3 rooms. There's even a pair of swimming trunks below. Very weird. But you find things like that in ghost towns. People think there's recreation here, and they get here and they find out, oops, come out here to party, drink, get themselves in trouble in the mines. Yeah. Cool. Next stop, White Cloud Cave.